Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. This is a famous real estate investing strategy that can be used for beginners to help reduce risk, hedge against inflation, scale your portfolio, and create a consistent flow of income. The BRRRR is a strategy where you target and buy an undervalued property, fix it up, rent it out. Once the property is rented out, you can refinance to pull your cash out. Once the cash is out, you go ahead and invest in another property and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So, seems like a simple way to make millions of dollars in real estate, and all you have to do is buy the first property, right? Well, not quite. Sorry to interrupt the video. I'll be posting every Tuesday and Friday, so make sure you like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified next time I post a video. Also, if I get to 100,000 subscribers by 12/31 in 2024, I'll be donating the full month of December's proceeds to the American Cancer Society from YouTube. So make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends and family, and we'll be going back to the video right now. The BRRRR method can be an incredible way to make millions of dollars, but there are some things that you should consider before jumping full-fledged into this strategy. Your comps when buying a property for this BRRRR method are incredibly important, as the whole strategy relies on this one factor. If you misvalue the property and buy it for more than it's worth, you won't be able to refinance, which means you can't do what the most important part of the BRRRR method is. Repeat. Make sure you double and triple check your comps and maybe use a real estate agent to make sure that the property you are acquiring is in fact undervalued. Additionally, if you miscalculate your renovation costs and it costs more money to renovate the property, it could also prevent you from pulling your cash equity out, as all the equity that you're originally going to pull out was tied up in the additional renovation costs. So make sure you either are very, very accurate with your renovation cost, which is difficult, or simply make sure that the deal makes sense with a margin of error for instances like this. High-level overview of an example of what the BRRRR method is if you were to buy a property for $200K below comp value, you then put $80K into it that has a value of that $200, and then you have a margin of $120,000 that you'd be able to pull out and then go ahead and put into another property so you can repeat this method. That example is super high-level overview. So some ways that you could improve your margins and be able to get $80K worth of upgrades to be worth $200K matching up to the comps would be something called sweat equity. What this is you do the work yourself, so you're only out the materials cost, versus if you were to hire someone else, you'd be out the labor plus materials. This is just a way that you can improve that margin to help getting that $120,000 in equity. An additional way you could help this margin of 120K equity would be to hire out the work and utilize multiple bids and then pick the best one. So say you have a project that needs to be done, you go ahead and arrange for 3 bids from 3 different contractors, you then go ahead and select the best one. Now, something to be wary of if you were to do this is the lowest price is not always the best one. Sometimes if you pick the lowest price contractor, they'll come in, there'll be delays, and it's going to end up costing more over time anyway. So make sure you pick the most qualified option so that way you can ensure that your project gets done on time and on budget. Or maybe you have a combination of both. You do some sweat equity and then you also hire out some work. This is really great and it's a great option, but make sure your contractors are aware of this so you're not butting heads and doing the same work and you're just getting in their way. Make sure you have a clear, concise list of what they're responsible for and what you're responsible for, so that way you're not clashing and in each other's way. Okay, so we have buying the property under value, we have the renovating, now it's time to rent it out. So make sure you look into the rental comps before you even acquire the property. You would be surprised how many people set this minor detail or what seems like a minor detail aside until the very end, and then they're caught with their pants down because they go ahead and rent it out. They realize they can't get as much money for it as they thought, so then they're negative out of pocket every single month. So make sure you do your due diligence with rental comps. Make sure that the cost to operate the place plus the additional rent, make sure you have enough margin there to make the deal worthwhile. That's the full BRRRR method and some things to look out for. But there are some additional key considerations that you want to make sure that you pay attention to before you go ahead and jump into this BRRRR method. First is seasoning. And I'm not talking about the seasoning that you put on your food. I'm talking about the mortgage and the amount of time that you need to have the mortgage before you can go ahead and refinance to repeat the process. A lot of people don't realize this, but you have to wait 6 to 12 months, and it's totally dependent on the lender as far as where you fall within that before you can go ahead and refinance to purchase another property. Additionally, there's another type of seasoning when it comes to the actual cash that you pull out of your refinance. That cash has to sit in your bank account for 2 months, 1 to 2 months, before you go ahead and apply for another loan. Lenders like to see this, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the reason behind it is to prevent money laundering as well as mortgage fraud. I could be wrong on that. I'm not a mortgage or lending professional. This is something that's really important to note because you can't just pull it out, buy, pull it out, buy, pull it out, buy. There are some times and lengths of period in between each step in this process before you can fully execute the BRRRR method. Now, I know that's a lot of factors to keep track of. Some investors, professional investors do, is they utilize a formula before they go ahead and actually even purchase the property to ensure that they have equity as well as ensure that they have the ability to refinance in the future while also building in a margin of error to prevent being underwater. What investors do to make sure that they have this margin of error built in is they minimize their purchase price to just 70% of the after repair value minus any renovation costs. So what this essentially does is it builds in 30% equity so that way they can have the ability to go ahead and refinance in the future. So with this specific formula, generally if you were to refinance, you can only do 80 to 85% loan to value. So this builds in an additional 5 to 10% for error that might be in the form of renovation costs or whatever it may be. Worst case, you have some extra equity to pull out in the future. So once again, they minimize their purchase price to 70% of the after repair value minus renovation costs. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and if I get to 100,000 subscribers by 12/31 of 2024, I'll be donating the full month of December's proceeds from YouTube to the American Cancer Society. So go ahead and like, subscribe, and check out one of my other videos right here.